Welcome to the fractions review lesson. Fractions are a way to split up a number into equal parts. They are written as one number over another. So fractions are part of a whole number. So the numerator represents the number of equal parts being examined, whereas the denominator represents the total number of equal parts in the whole. Equivalent fractions are fractions that have the same value, but could be represented in a different fraction. For example, 1/2, 2/4, 3/6, and 4/8. They all have the same value. So basically half of a circle, but they are all displayed in a different way. Write as an equivalent fraction. So 2/3 equals to something over 9. So on the right side, it says, think about what do you have to multiply 3 by to get 9. So to go from 3 to 9, you multiply 3 by 3 to get to 9. So whatever you do to the denominator, you're also going to do to the numerator. So if you multiply the denominator by 3, you're also going to multiply the numerator by 3. And that'll give you 6. So 2/3 is equivalent to 6/9. Example 1, write the following as equivalent fractions. So we're going to start with our denominator. What did we do to 7 to get to 14? Multiplied by 2. Whatever you do to the bottom, you're going to do to the top. So 1/7 is equivalent to 2/14. Next, you multiply 5 by 6 to get 30. So now we're going to multiply 2 by 6 to get 12. In C, instead of moving from the smaller number to the bigger number and multiplying by a value, now in this question, we are moving in the opposite direction. We're going to be moving from the bigger number to the smaller number. So when moving from a bigger number to a smaller number, instead of multiplying, we divide. So 15 divided by 5 gives us 3. So 10 divided by 5 equals 2. Example 2. Write an equivalent fraction for each of the following with a denominator of 20. Okay, so we want a denominator of 20 for all of these equivalent fractions. Okay, so to go from 5 to 20, we're multiplying by 4. So we're going to do the same to our numerator. 4 times 4 is 16. Okay, to go from 2 to 20, we multiply by 10. So we're going to do the same to our numerator. And finally, to go from 4 to 20, we're multiplying by 5. So we'll do the same in the numerator. A common denominator. Fractions that have the same number in the denominator. Example, if two fractions do not have the same denominator, how can we make them the same? Well, we'll follow these 2 steps. We need to find the lowest common multiple, and then multiply the numerator by the same number as you multiply the denominator in order to get the lowest common multiple. Let's practice down here. So write 2/5 and 1/6 with a common denominator. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to first, in step 1, tells us that we need to first find the lowest common multiple between the denominators. So down here, our denominators are 5 and 6. So the lowest common multiple between 5 and 6 is 30. So now I'm going to set up my two fractions. Instead of writing 5 and 6 though for my denominators, my new common denominator is 30. So both my denominators are now 30. So what did I do to the first denominator, 5, to get 30? I multiplied it by 6. So because I multiplied my denominator by 6, I'm going to now multiply my numerator by 6 as well. So 2 times 6 is 12. So 2 over 5 is equivalent to 12 over 30. And my next fraction, I multiplied 6 by 5 in order to get the denominator of 30. So whatever I multiply my denominator by, I'm also going to multiply my numerator by. So 1 times 5 is 5. So 1 over 6 is equivalent to 5 over 30. And now I've written 2 over 5 and 1 over 6 with a common denominator of 30. Example 4, we're going to do this again. So step 1 is finding a lowest common multiple between 4 and 3, which is 12. Okay, so we're no longer going to use the denominators 4 and 3. We're now going to use the denominators 12 for both fractions. Okay, so to get 12, I multiplied 4 by 3. So that means I'm going to multiply my numerator by 3 as well. And for the second fraction, I multiplied the denominator by 4 to get 12. So I'm also going to multiply my numerator by 4 to get my new numerator, which would be 8. Page 3, adding and subtracting fractions. So this is where finding a common denominator is imperative in order for you to add and subtract fractions that don't have a common denominator. So for question 1, our denominators are both 4, so that's fine. We actually don't need to find a common denominator, but we will for question 2 and 3. And then once you do have a common denominator, you're going to amalgamate your numerators so that they're together in one numerator, and then we're just going to write the denominator for once. Okay, so instead of writing it as separate fractions, now we have one big numerator, and then we're just going to write the common denominator one time. And then we can simplify our numerator by adding them together. Okay, and what's really important is this last step that says always reduce to lowest terms. So 4 over 4, that's the same as saying 1 whole. 4 divided by 4 is 1. Okay, so by leaving it at this stage, 4 over 4, it's correct, but it's not fully correct. Okay, so not reducing to lowest terms would result in either half a mark or 1 whole mark taken off. So please make sure that you're always reducing to lowest terms. So let's practice example 2, which we need to find a common denominator. The lowest common multiple between 3 and 8 is 24. My new denominators are both going to be 24. So what did I do to 3 to get 24? I multiplied 3 by 8. So that means I'm also going to multiply my numerator by 8. So that's my new numerator. And what did I do to 8 to get 24? I multiplied that by 3. So that means I'm also going to multiply my numerator by 3. And that's my new numerator. Now I'm going to write my two fractions as 1, now that I have a lowest common denominator. And then I'm going to simplify my numerator, 25 over 24. This is an improper fraction, and that's fine. When you do get an improper fraction, just leave it in that form instead of converting it into a mixed number. And question 3, the lowest common multiple between 6 and 4 is 24. So now I'm going to have two fractions. that are being subtracted by each other, and they both have denominators of 24. So to get 24, I multiplied 6 by 4, which means I'm also going to multiply my numerator by 4. And then to get 24, I multiplied 4 by 6, which means I'm also going to multiply my numerator by 6. And then I'm going to write my fractions as 1, and then simplifying my numerator. And then remembering to reduce to lowest terms. When multiplying fractions, we don't need a common denominator. So this is actually less steps. What you do is you just multiply the numerators together, and then you also multiply the denominators together. So 1 times 4 is 4, and then 2 times 9 is 18. And then remembering to reduce your fraction to lowest terms. So I'm going to divide both numerator and denominator by 2. Next, so we're going to multiply all the numerators together, and then we're going to multiply all the denominators together. So 2 times 4 is 8, and then 8 times 3 is 24. And my denominators, 3 times 5 is 15, 15 times 2 is 30. And then reducing my fractions, I'm going to divide both by 6. So 24 divided by 6 is 4, and 30 divided by 6 is 5. Question 3, I'm going to multiply my numerators together and then my denominators together. 2 times 6 is 12. 7 times 3 is 21. And we can divide both numerator and denominator by 3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. 21 divided by 3 is 7. Finally, question 4. Let's multiply our numerators together. 3 times 2 is 6. And then multiplying our denominators together, 30. And then reducing, I'm going to divide both by 6, both the numerator and the denominator by 6. So that's 1 over 5. When dividing fractions, we need to take the reciprocal of the second fraction. And remember that reciprocal means to flip your fraction. Okay, so here, 3 over 8 divided by 4 over 9, we're actually going to take our second fraction, 4 over 9, and we're going to take its reciprocal, flipping the numerator and denominator. So instead of 4 over 9, it's now going to be 9 over 4. And instead of division, it's now going to be multiplication. So this can actually be rewritten as this. And then we can go ahead and what we just practiced on the previous question, we can apply here. Multiplying our numerators together and then multiplying our denominators together. 3 times 9 is 27. 8 times 4 is 32. Let's practice these 2 examples and then we're done. So again, I see that these are fractions being divided by each other. So I'm going to take my second fraction and I'm going to take its reciprocal. So the first fraction will be rewritten as is. The division sign will be changed to a multiplication. And I'm going to take the reciprocal of 2 over 3. Now this is a multiplication question. So multiplying my numerators together and then my denominators together and then reducing if I can. So here I'm going to divide my numerator and denominator by 2 and we're done. Okay, and we're going to practice one more time. So again, remembering to take the reciprocal of the second fraction because this is division. So it's going to turn into multiplication. And then reducing if we can, and we can here. So I'm going to divide both by 2. And that's it. There is a fractions review worksheet that is attached to this lesson, so ensure that you're completing that. The answer key to the fractions worksheet will be provided as well, so ensure that you double check your answers to make sure that you got them all correct and that you fully understand fractions. Great job today.